Hi, this is Billie Beene here with a world news update. I have a subscribe button in the lower right corner of my screen. Thanks for like, subscribe, and share. Some of the things we'll be covering today is March 21, 2024, time about 9 a.m. in Texas, episode 137. Some of the things we'll be covering: Arctic, Israel, BEFOREITSNEWS. Israel, Iraq attacks Israel. Vampire ball is over. And French, German, and Polish troops are now inside Ukraine. Some of my sources are God in the Bible, Patriot subscribers, Mike Adams, Hal Turner, Business Insider, Newsweek, Best and Taylor, Through the Eyes of, ANIA, The Independent. So let's get started. I'll begin by covering something that's very interesting. So we've got Russia, Ukraine. Up in this area, we have the Arctic. Over here, we would have Finland. Okay, so an exercise is going on called the Arctic Circle Exercise 24. And recently, we had something like 400 Allied troops that included U.S. and Navy SEALs and Allied Force Commandos, U.S. Army Green Berets, the 160th SOAR Crews, that's part of the U.S. military. And what they did in the Arctic on the ice, so I'll draw this for you. So Arctic Circle 24 exercise. So we had the SEALs and the Green Berets and the SOAR teams and Allied commandos doing a first ever exercise where they set down in Chinook helicopters on the ice. Then they offloaded snowmobiles. Then they traversed across the ice to pick up a package. Then they delivered the package to a U.S. submarine that had come up through the ice. So very interesting. Yeah. So the U.S. sub emerged through the ice. The USS Hampton was the submarine that took part in this exercise. So we had an unknown number of Chinooks sit down on the ice, offload snowmobiles, and we had 400 Allied forces, including Navy SEALs, and they would have been led by the Navy SEALs, the U.S. Army Green Berets, and the U.S. SOAR crews. They traversed across the ice, picked up a package, and then delivered it to the USS Hampton submarine that had come up through the ice. So very interesting. A first time ever exercise of this nature and this type took place in the Arctic recently. So that's going on. Okay. So we know we have this conflict going on in Russia and Europe and NATO and the U.S. According to Best and Taylor, a seer had prophesied a nuke explosion would take place somewhere in Ukraine. And recently we had Ukraine who successfully put down some type of bomb on the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant that's located, here's Ukraine. We have Luhansk, Donetsk, Zaporizhzhia, Kherson. These are the Russian enclaves now. So the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, this happened about 5 days ago. We've heard no additional comments, but Ukraine reportedly dropped the bomb on the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant in their nuke storage area. Russia immediately contacted the International Nuclear Power Group. And so this happened on the afternoon of March 14, but we still have no additional information about it. And further, the Besson-Taylor seer prophecy also prophesied in the middle flat area of the U.S., a huge nuke could fall. So now we know what to pray against. So that's going on. But that did happen. The Ukraine reportedly did drop a bomb on the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant and their nuke storage area. So far, no additional information. Now, Mike Adams is bringing this out. This has to do with Israel, Gaza. So we have the U.S. sending the U.S. Army, and they're to arrive about April maybe 10 to 15 with a pier. They're going to put in this area and offload, we're hearing, 100,000 U.S. troops. And the purpose, according to various intel sources, is for the U.S. to take over Gaza. And if this includes versus the IDF, then that will come. And I have Patriot subscriber whose husband was also on the USS Liberty. And that happened in 1967. Israel was having a 6-day war. So the USS Liberty was in international waters off of Egypt. And it was a spy plane, but they were in international waters. What Israel did was order the sinking of the USS Liberty. The pilots of the unmarked Israeli planes said, "This is a U.S. ship." And the leadership of Israel said, "Sink it." And according to sources and also my Patriot subscriber, 34 U.S. military were killed and hundreds were injured. Israel was not successful in sinking the plane. Now, this has been substantiated through U.S. military courts who said Israel tried to sink the USS Liberty, and Israel did fire upon a non-armed ship, the USS Liberty, and tried to sink it and did kill U.S. military. So the U.S. military's thinking is, remember the USS Liberty, and with this move by the U.S. military now to build a pier, offload U.S. military troops to take over Gaza, there's a possibility that the Israeli government may order the IDF to fire upon U.S. troops. Now, toward that end, and recently, in the past few weeks, we've seen the U.S. political system that was the U.S. Senate. And we had Chuck Schumer. He is dual citizen, America and Israel. Also the majority leader in the Senate. Stand up on the floor of the Senate, and thus his words were public and placed into public records, that Benjamin Netanyahu needs to leave as the leader of Israel, and that the Israeli government are bigots. And this is in response to the intense opposition by the American people against the genocide taking place in Palestine and the West Bank. And we see the U.S. House not sending any more money to Israel nor to Ukraine. The American people do not support war. So, we had this. This came out March 15 by Mike Adams. In the last 24 hours, Schumer stood on the floor of the Senate and said, Benjamin Netanyahu has got to go. So that's going on. And the Israeli government are bigots. And we have this. Yeah, so the U.S. military is going to build this pier. Up to 100,000 U.S. troops could be offloaded to take over and occupy Gaza and set up as peacekeepers. Currently, Benjamin Netanyahu is not listening to the U.S. government and continues genocide. And we have this also. And this happened recently. So I've put out previous information about the IDF bombing. That was a UK general plus UK forces. That happened about a month ago. Now, IDF has bombed UK doctors who are inside a building. So we have Gaza, we have buildings, but this building they were in was separate from the residential area of Gaza and thus easily identifiable. Israel bombed this hospital area and killed the UK doctors. So yeah. That went on. Israel bombed the UK doctors, and it's ironic that Israel was bombing the UK doctors using weapons supplied by the UK. Yep. And they hit the separate compound with an F-16, a 1,000-pound smart bomb, and killed the US doctors. So, yeah. That's going on. Israel is losing friends everywhere by trying to kill those who would try to bring in peace. They want simply to continue the genocide in Gaza. And recently in New York City, a representative from the Israeli government was inside New York City trying to sell oceanfront property in Gaza. So that's going on. So we've got Israel, we've got Pakistan, Iran, let's see, Afghanistan. I think Afghanistan's up here. And recently, the past few days, there was a skirmish between Afghanistan, the Pakistan-affiliated Taliban inside Afghanistan, then bombed an area inside Pakistan. So, Pakistan, there have been cross-border bombings taking place. So, number one, Pakistan attacked Afghanistan. That happened on Tuesday, March 20, in an airstrike that killed Taliban inside Afghanistan. Then number two, Afghanistan attacks inside Pakistan. So we've got all that going on too in the Middle East. And now we have this from Hal Turner. This has to do with Israel. Yeah. So Israel is also going into the West Bank and to continue their genocide of the Palestinians, and they are cementing natural springs and wells to cut off the water supply to the Palestinian people in the West Bank. And recently, Newsweek is bringing this out. So we have Saudi Arabia, then we have Oman and Yemen. And we know the Houthis have been taking down ships in the Red Sea. So the Houthis fired a cruise missile, and this did hit inside Israel near Eilat. So they were successful, and we understand recently Iran provided Yemen with long-range missiles. So now the Houthis have fired a cruise missile. They did successfully hit Israel near Eilat. It's a first-time hit. And then recently, the Houthis also hit an LNG cargo tanker that was carrying LNG gas, flagged in Marshall Islands. The owner is Greek. So that's going on. Yeah, the U.S. military on Monday, March 19, in the Red Sea, successfully took down 7 missiles and 3 drones, according to the CENTCOM statement. So we see the U.S. military is also in this area, and they are firing up on, and we had a recent report that U.S. troops, that was like last week, were actually on the ground inside Yemen. And then yesterday a report came out that the Houthis had been attacked. The Houthis are not the government and not the people. They're an occupying paramilitary group inside the nation of Yemen. And yesterday, some of the people in Yemen were defending themselves against the Houthis. Then the Houthis dropped some kind of drone attack on a family house in Sana'a and took out 9 members of one family. So we see inside Yemen, there's also civil war going on. And now we have this. Inside Israel, Tel Aviv. So we've got Jordan, Iraq. An Iraqi group fired a drone onto Tel Aviv, onto one of their power plants. And that happened, today's March 21 in the U.S. That happened at dawn this morning. So that's going on. And now we have ANIA K. She's a journalist out of Poland, talking about President Putin recently won the election. I think that was over the weekend. Inside Russia, he'll be the leader of Russia until 2030. And what President Putin said was the vampire ball is over. And I believe that refers to many things, one of which is the red drink that the deep state non-human monsters need. That's produced in Ukraine in biolabs. So that's going on. The vampire ball is over. Okay. And we, the good people of the U.S., we say bring it. So that's going on. And now, we have also inside Ukraine, so we've got Russia, which includes Luhansk, Donetsk, Zaporizhzhia, Kherson, Crimea. This is all part of Russia. And we have Poland, Slovakia, Hungary, Romania, France. We have Germany, France. Okay. So in bilateral agreements within the French, German, and Polish governments outside of NATO, these nations, France, Germany, and Poland, operating as individual nations outside the NATO agreement, have gone inside Ukraine, and we have the Dnipro River right here, and we understand they are located now inside Ukraine, near a small town, and are camping inside schools, inside a small town. So France said they were going to send 2,000 troops. It's unknown how many Germany and Poland have sent in, and it's unknown if France has totally sent in 2,000 French troops. It is known now and is being substantiated by people living in that area and on the ground that troops from France, Germany, and Poland are now inside Ukraine wearing the military uniforms of France, Germany, and Poland. So from Newsweek, France is to send 2,000 troops, up to a total of 20,000. Now, France's total military is about 119,000. So, from Hal Turner, France, Germany, and Poland have troops inside Ukraine, and they are near this small town called Cherkasy. And Hal Turner's intel came from people on the ground in this small town. It's located near the Dnipro River. They are locating inside schools. And the people in this area are worried about the safety of their children. And the people in this area say, but our children are not in the schools at night. Now, inside Romania, Romania is building the largest NATO base. It'll house up to 10,000 troops, cost $2.5 billion. They started on it like in 2019. It's going to take them 20 years to finish it, but they are rushing certain parts of it now so that they can house more troops immediately. The Independent reports Russia and Hal Turner also have this report. So on the night of last night, so today is March 21, last night, March 20, in the PM, Russia sent in 14 Tu-95s, they're strategic bombers. They hit Kiev, one of the locations they hit. So in Kiev, they hit a Farnak. And I take that to be part of President Putin's statement, the vampire ball is over. I believe this pharma was preparing the red drink coming from underground biolabs inside Ukraine that Russia has not taken out yet. They also hit near Sumy and near Kharkiv. So that happened overnight. And now, there's also, within the past day or two, a meeting of NATO inside Brussels, and they want to confiscate Russian assets in European banks and use the money ostensibly for Ukraine. But by now, certainly the American people are aware that a majority of the money supposedly earmarked for weapons and to support the military inside Ukraine and Israel is actually going into the government politicians' pockets. So that's going on. So now we have also, we have the NATO supported group attacking inside Russia, inside Belgorod, that's on the border with Ukraine. Russia has evacuated about 9,000 people from Belgorod. And we have this from Hal Turner. So Ukraine has been systematically and consistently attacking the residential area of Belgorod, no military objectives, for several weeks. And President Putin says Russia can reciprocate attacks on civilians, but Russia doesn't stoop to this low level. Russia will attack military targets, and Russia has special plans to attack military targets in all regions of Ukraine. And now we have this. Yeah, the German, French, and Polish troops are now in Cherkasy, inside Ukraine, near the Dnipro River. And this report came out last night about 7 p.m. And at 7 p.m. is when Russia sent up 14 Tu-95 planes, and then they hit Kiev, Sumy, and Kharkiv. So that happened last night. And now we have this from the Russian Ministry of Defense. So Russia took down Vampire missiles, Czech Vampire missiles, and that happened this morning, March 21 at dawn. So from Ukraine came Czech Vampire missiles 10 near Belgorod, and Russia took them down. There was some damage to a residential apartment building, 5 people injured from shrapnel. And now we have this. Russia hit the Pharmac Pharma, that was overnight, and a NATO warehouse located in Kiev. And now we have from ANIA K, a Polish journalist, says she has received comments from her subscribers substantiating, and she received them March 21, so I guess this would have happened yesterday, March 20, inside Poland. People on the ground are reporting French troops have been seen inside Poland, and also UK troops are inside Poland. So it appears maybe that we have, this is outside NATO, so we have France, Germany, Poland, plus the UK, who are preparing to send in troops inside Ukraine. Now, the legal understanding that's been given out is that these nations are operating outside their agreement with NATO. Therefore, they, of their own volition, are going inside Ukraine to fight Russia. They then become legitimate military targets for Russia, and because they are operating outside their agreement with NATO, this would not trigger Article 5 of NATO, and that is an attack on one is an attack on all, because these nations are on the attack mode by going into a nation that's currently at war with Russia outside the NATO agreement. So we have that going on. So, a short prayer. Oh, and the American people, if the U.S. government said we want to send U.S. troops inside Ukraine to fight Russia, the American people would most likely rise up and build gallows in the streets of Washington, D.C. We, the American people, want no more war, no more money to Ukraine, no more money to Israel, anywhere else in the world, and we want our U.S. military to come home to America. So a short prayer. I'll use the modified version of General Patton's World War II prayer. Father, grant us fair weather for battle. Guide us from victory to victory, and destroy, annihilate, vaporize our enemies, domestic, foreign, and off-world. And we say thank you, God the Father, God the Son, Jesus, whom many call Yeshua, and God the Holy Spirit. I say to my family and friends, remain steady out there, continue to pray. God is in charge, and He is on the move. I love you, and I'll see you soon.